Welcome, everybody. This is Patrick Snow, host of the Patrick and Mary Unstoppable Author Interview Series, where we interview authors, speakers, coaches, consultants from all over the world to help you get what you all want: more time, more money, more freedom, more health, more love, and more happiness in life. Today, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, we have a special author guest. Her name is Tracey Virtue. If you want to follow along online, visit her website, traceyvirtue.com. Again, traceyvirtue.com. That's Tracey virtue.com. She's the author of the book that's hot off the press, Leveraging the Virtues of Leadership. I love how she used her last name in the title. I think that's so creative. Leveraging the Virtues of Leadership, fueling growth, innovation, and resilience to achieve your organizational goals. It's empowering your team to lead from the heart. I'm going to read your bio verbatim because it's so impressive. Tracey Virtue, Tracey L. Virtue, is an author, professional keynote speaker, leadership expert. She's helped steer the growth of a private equity portfolio company from less than $40 million in revenue to more than $200 million with a $3 billion valuation within 8 years. She's also grown startups from nothing more than $18 million in revenue, been in startups that failed, owned small businesses, and turned around divisions of public companies. Tracey's has more than 30 years of experience that spans the different business sectors of software as a service, e-commerce, staffing, technology, consulting. Her career has zigzagged with diverse roles in software development, sales, marketing, human resources, and operations, ultimately leading her into executive leadership. Based on her experience, Tracey believes virtues-based leadership is your biggest lever for fueling growth, innovation, and resilience. It's more powerful than capital or technology alone. Tracey is born in Canada's Midwestern Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Hard to say, but certainly easy to draw. Her childhood years spanned 3 countries: Trinidad, United States, and Canada. Yeah. Tracey's graduated from Carleton University in Ottawa with a business degree, majoring in management information. Later, she graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA Anderson School of Management with her MBA in the top 15% of her class. And just so we get this right, I was on the bottom 15% of my class. So let's just we're on the same page. Today, Tracey lives with her husband in Las Vegas, Nevada. And as an outdoor enthusiast, you'll find them cycling, grilling on the barbecue, or on the patio, sharing good times, telling stories with friends and family. For more information, please visit traceyvirtue.com. Again, traceyvirtue.com. Please join me in a warm welcoming Miss Tracey Virtue.
Hey, hello everyone. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, well, we're excited for this. I've so enjoyed working with you the last year or so, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. So you guys get out your notepad and pen. You're going to learn everything you want to learn about leadership and business, and this is going to be real exciting. So before we
Not everything, Patrick. We have to leave stuff for the book.
All right, we'll get most of it. And again, go to traceyvirtue.com to pick up a copy of the book. That's where you want to find it, as well as Amazon. So as we begin, tell me quickly, how do we connect and how long ago was that?
Well, it was December or January of, December 24, January 25. One of my good friends that I met at UCLA, Mia Tepper, when she heard I was going to write a book, that was my intention for this year, 2025. She says, "You've got to meet Patrick." And so she introduced us. And since then, what a great gift she did. I've learned so much from you, Patrick, about writing a book and the publishing process, and so many more details that go into it than I ever thought.
Mia is amazing. She's one of my favorite clients, and she's got an incredible book on parenting coming out very soon. So yeah, I was so thrilled for that connection. So growing up in Canada in the summers, it was still probably pretty cold, but still, did you have a lemonade stand at the end of your driveway? Did you have chocolate chip cookies, candy that you were selling? Were you always a leader, growing up as a kid, or is this something that you evolved to in your older years?
Well, I don't know that I would call it as a leader, more of an initiative taker. And while I don't remember having a lemonade stand, I do remember being in a readathon. And the idea was we were raising money for something. So I'm like knocking on doors. Hello, hello, I'm going to read these books. Would you sponsor me? How much per book would you read? And I'm a very fast reader and I'm a good reader. And I went back to collect the money after I had read all the books. I went to this one house and I'm like, I read 100 books. And the guy says, there's no way you read 100 books. I'm like, here's my list. Ask me any question.
And give me the $200 that you
Exactly, yes. So books,
Wow.
clearly books have always been a favorite of mine. And even when I did with my kids, we get them into reading. And when our local library had like a reading contest, they got a little sticker for every book they read. And then on this one wall was just my kids. I have all the stickers of their names. So books are a big thing for us.
How did you go from Saskatchewan to Trinidad and then back to Canada? Tell us that story. That's pretty amazing.
Oh, well, let's see. I think it started when I was 5. I think we moved to Trinidad from Canada. My dad worked for the Canadian government. He promoted trade between Canada and other countries. So we got to go to other countries. And I was in Trinidad for grades 2, 3, and 4. And when I got there, it's so different than Canada. And, even though people were speaking to us in English, they had the Trinidadian accent. And we were like, okay, we can figure this out. And I went to an international school. There was Mandarin, there was Dutch, there was Spanish, all these languages I didn't know. So it was my first experience in a really multicultural environment. And it was exciting. And as opposed to being really scared of everything that was new, I just loved it. I embraced it all. And what could we do? And where could we go? And how do we fit in? And then when my dad's posting was done there, we actually moved to the United States next. And I got to tell you, United States is not that different from Canada, but still different from Trinidad. And when we came back, my sister and I had Trinidadian accents. And our neighbors next to us would say to me, what did she say? What did your sister say? Because I was able to mirror their accent faster than she did because she was younger than me. And so for a while, I was a translator. So when we would do games in this tree, that huge tree next to us, we climbed the tree. And so she was always like the femme fatale or the spy because she still had that Trinidadian accent. So it was very fun. So we were there for 4 years. And then our move from the United States to Canada was when I was going into high school. And so when we got to Canada, nobody knew me. I'm the new kid in town. None of the cliques or cliques, whatever you want to call them, wanted me in there. And so here's my leadership thing again, Patrick. I'll just make my own. So I made my own, and that's how brought a bunch of people in who didn't have one. And then that was good. And after I got married and more careers, we actually moved back to the United States. So lots of moving around.
Did you, when you went back to Canada, did you go back to Saskatoon or did you go somewhere else?
Oh, we actually went to Ottawa,
Okay.
Ontario. So Canada's capital.
So
Where
again,
if you ever get to go there in the spring and see all their tulips, beautiful.
wow, wow. So moving forward, in your career in sales, because you did sales and startup prior to getting your MBA. So when you went into a startup, you struggled with sales. Tell me about that process and why did you struggle?
Well, it was probably the third zig in my zigzagging career. My first one was I was going to be a chemist, but that didn't happen. I failed analytical chemistry terribly and said, there's no way. So I had to find something new. My dream had been crushed. I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And so I went and tried a bunch of different roles and I got into technology and I became a technology consultant. I was developing software, writing code, and I was an independent consultant. And I was saying, okay, I'm going to look for my next contract. And one of my friends said, oh, come and meet this guy, Ken. He's got a new consulting company. He'll surely find, a contract for you. When I met him and he said, oh, you don't want a contract. You want to come into sales. No, I'm not sure what about this conversation made you think I wanted to go into sales. Well, he spent 6 months trying to convince me to come into sales. And I said, all right, look, my first kid is being born in August. I'll join you afterwards in September. So I did. I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't know sales, but what the heck? I didn't know technology before. I'll learn it. And one of the things he said is I was really good at connecting with people and understanding what they need and being able to come up with solutions. He says, that's just what you need in sales. Just be yourself. So I'm meeting people and I'm getting interest, but my deals aren't closing. And I'm looking at the clock tick about, well, I'm on commission, but I'm not making very much money. And now I've got a baby and I bought a house. And so I have my husband and three of us. I'm like, I need to make more money to pay the bills. And on month 5, I said to him, look, this isn't going to work. I'm going to go back to consulting. And he says, no, 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 don't do it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I've talked to like hundreds of people. I've got like all these deals. Nothing's closing. This is never going to work. You were crazy to tell me I'm going to sales. I'm going back to what I know. And he's like, hang in one more month. I'll make sure that no matter what your commission is for this next month, that it pays your bills. I thought, all right, one more month. Okay, what's one more month? Well, in that 1 month, I didn't know anything about sales pipelines and sales cycles at that time, so I learned them the hard way. And that 1 more month was what it took for all these deals to start to close, one after the other. And the biggest deal that I got was probably a few months later from a referral, which is in one of my stories in the book. It's called Choosing Truth Over Comfort, where I actually sent a customer to the competitor because I couldn't fill the needs that he had. And I sent him there and he referred somebody else to me. And then we won a $5 million contract because of that. So and that sparked that. My sales took off. I understood what to do. I learned pipelines the hard way. I learned about how the virtue of integrity can leverage what you're doing and your sales. And then we grew that company to 18 million.
Wow. It just shows you that perseverance. Perseverance is what it takes. Agmendino always said, I will persist until I succeed. And you're a perfect example of that. So what were some of the other challenges that you faced in your early years during your involvement with some of these startup companies?
Oh, well, I've done a number of startups. And, sometimes when you're in a startup, you can be doing everything right. You can be doing your marketing right. You can be doing your sales right. And then from out of the blue, something you can't control comes in and squishes it. For example, the economy goes down. Well, if you're selling business to business, a lot of businesses cut back on what they're buying from outside companies. I had that happen. Ended up having to shut down that business. Startups raising capital. I did a startup. We were spinning off a division from a company that I worked with, and the CEO asked me to come and raise capital with them. Well, as opposed to venture capital or private equity or bank loan, we went out to what's called strategics. So other businesses in our vertical industry who could benefit, by working with us, and we raised capital. So that was a challenge. I'd never done that before. But it's a lot like sales. So I learned that, okay, all the sales things that I had done in my past worked for raising capital. Other challenges when you go to startups are when they grow really quickly. And whether that's, I've had that experience with, a startup as well as a private equity portfolio company where they start small. And then when you start to really grow, things break.
For
And
those
how
that
do you fix it?
aren't well-versed in business or haven't gone down that path, can you describe and define venture capital and also describe private equity and talk about what that really is, what those two are?
Well, venture capital are investors who are interested in very early stage companies, and they'll come in for what's called a piece of equity, so a piece of ownership of the company, and they're going to invest their capital to help the company grow, whether you need to buy materials, hire more people, have office space, and they invest in that. And they have a longer term time horizon for when they expect the business to be successful and either be generating enough revenue, they get profit, or they could sell the business and gain a return on their investment.
Just like Shark Tank, right? Shark Tank.
Like Shark Tank, yes. Yeah, think of it
go.
like Shark Tank. Maybe not as sharky, but definitely that same.
Maybe more like tuna or minnows or
Well, I don't know. Don't hear the Jaws music behind you. They're not that scary. And private equity is similar, but generally private equity is buying a business that's already profitable, that's already moving, and they're on the growth path. And private equity comes in to help them reach that next level. They're looking for usually, a return in 3 to 5 years, sometimes 7, depending on where we are in the overall mergers and acquisitions market of companies buying one another for their return. But they're also looking for what can they bring to the table to help the company. Do they have great, sales experience so they could help with selling, or do they have technology experience? So they often work to partner with the management leadership team of the company and then help them grow.
So early on, a startup company might seek out venture capitalists to fund the business. And then that same company, within a few years, they might also seek out private equity to take them to the next level.
That's right. The venture capitalist might sell it to the private equity folks, and then private equity sells it again,
And
or
you
they
were
go
involved,
public, and away
and
you
you're
go.
involved in all those deals happening. So yeah. Okay, so you're married at this time. You're a mother, and then you're involved in all of these startups. So what were some of the other challenges that you had to balance between family and work and your career, and the stresses and pressures of making the math work so that these companies could succeed?
Oh, I'm sure everyone listening will have gone through things of burnout, finding the right people for your team, trying to iterate on getting what is the right revenue model? What is the right product? How do we make things work? When you have rapid growth, things break that you didn't think. When you had a process that worked when you had maybe 50 customers, you can add more people and it might work for up to 500. But when you start to get to 1,000 customers, those same processes don't work. And your systems start breaking and your data starts breaking. And I like to call it the back office is breaking. And so, how do you fix your operations so that you don't have all of those problems? Some of the other things that I would have is like overwhelm. There's so much work to do. And, as you get in larger companies, sometimes, you've got a boss who comes in and says like, one more thing. And you're like, okay, one more thing. And then you're like, "Ugh, I'm going to die if it gives me one more thing. I don't know what to do. I can't get everything done. There's not enough minutes in an hour, let alone hours in a day." So all of those problems I have been through, let alone the whole, okay, now I have 4 kids. So at one point I have 4 kids. We decided that my husband would be the full-time parent. So I've got 6 people that I'm supporting. So no pressure on making sure that, you've got a good job and money coming in. So that pressure too. And then how do you spend time at work versus spending time at home, and the challenges of balancing?
Well, and to make matters more challenging, you decided to go back and pursue an MBA. So, what inspired you to pursue your Master's of Business Administration, and also why UCLA Anderson School of Business? And did you quit your job and go full time into your MBA work, or did you kind of, keep your job and go part time MBA? How did you pull that off? Because that's a juggling act right there in itself.
Well, that's a joke. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. When I graduated from university, a number of my friends went and did their MBA right away. And I was like, I am so done with school. No. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, my husband was like, why don't you go back and get your MBA? Well, we looked at the cost of getting an MBA, and I'm like, that's not happening. So many, many years went forward and was thinking about it. And I had a conversation one day, and I talk about this in my book's chapter about speaking up, of having the willingness to say to your boss, my career goal is this. And to him, my career goals, I want to be in the C-suite like you are. He was a chief operating officer. I said, what do I need to do to get there? And he gave me a number of things to do. And one of them was, you should probably have an MBA. It's like a check the box thing. And I thought, oh, a check the box thing. Okay. Well, at this time we're living in.
You're pretty good at checking the boxes.
I'm pretty good at check. I do like to check. I'm very organized. I'm a very organized person. So I love checklists. I'm like, okay, how do I check that off my list? And I had worked for a publicly traded company and had shares in that company. And that is what I used to fund actually going back to school. I was living in the greater Los Angeles area in Huntington Beach, California at the time. And UCLA is there, USC is there, and there are a few others. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. Let me apply. And this is March, I think, that I'm applying. And the deadlines.
How many years ago was this? What kind of time frame?
This was in 2010.
Okay.
So in 2010, I did the applications, and you could go, to the university. They had these events where you could come in, sort of see the school. They gave a tour. They had a director's luncheon, and I went to some of those. And I got accepted into all of the universities that I applied to. Although I got to tell you, writing that GMAT when you haven't done like calculus in years, that was pretty stressful. I made it. Whew, squeak, squeak, the skin of my teeth. And at one of those luncheons, I met some great people, one of whom has been my best friend ever since, and said, I got to go to that school. And she likes to tell the story of, I called her at Target one day. I'm not sure which one should I go to. She goes, well, UCLA is known beyond California. Maybe you want to go there. I'm going there. And I'm like, oh, you're going there? Okay, well done. And so that's why I went to UCLA.
Very cool. Very cool. So you and you do it full-time, part-time, mornings,
Oh, right.
evenings. How did you
Well,
adjust with your jobs and that?
I didn't quit my job. That chief operating officer that I spoke to, when I told them I was going to go and do this, they have what's called, they have the regular MBA. They've got a fully employed MBA program, and they have an executive MBA. Well, given the number of years of experience that I have, I did fit well into the executive MBA category. And that class, they structured it so that you could continue working. So every other Friday and Saturday, we would go to the school and have the classes and do all that work. And then, Monday through every other Friday, you're back at your job. One of the things that my boss agreed to is that I could actually have that every other Friday off without using my vacation. So there's a lot of good support from there. And then the CEO of our company, he was even more supportive because I would come back in on a Monday and go, oh, I learned this in marketing. We should try this. And he's like, oh, well, all right, let's do it. So I got to take what I would learn and put it to work on the next week. And that was, I think that's how I really ingrained the lessons. And it's one of the things that I like to do is as I'm learning something, how quickly can I apply it? Because as soon as you can apply something that you learn, you're going to get it better. And so what I did for my readers in my book is I tell the story and I give a little, summary of what were the lessons that I had learned the hard way. And then I said, here's 2 prompts for your turn. Think about how you could put these lessons to work for you. And so that's in the book because I learned really well that way. I wanted to share that with my readers.
Our guest today is Tracey Virtue. You can learn more about her at traceyvirtue.com. Her book is titled Leveraging the Virtues of Leadership. So now you graduate 2013, 14, 12 in that range. You're now full-time back in corporate America. And all of a sudden, several years later, you get this inspiration for a book. Where did that inspiration come from?
Well, remember I told you my husband was always bugging me to get my MBA? After I got it, he started bugging me about writing a book. I was like, what am I going to write a book about? What do I know? Who am I to write a book? I mean, should I write a children's novel? I could tell stories. I love using different voices when I read a story. So I thought, well, I could do that. And I thought, no, I don't know. And I had a number of folks ask me if I would be their mentor. And I joined a program at one time called Women Unlimited as a mentor. And I got a lot out of being able to share, oh my gosh, all my experience matters and other people can learn from that. Well, that's great. And I had so many people saying, well, could you be a mentor? Could you be a mentor? And I thought, wow, this is a neat idea. What if I spent some time and really thought about what I've learned in my career and wrote it? Then I could be a mentor. People could have me on their shelf, easy to get to as a mentor, and I could reach more people. Or if they had forgotten what I said, they could just look it up. What was Tracey's little tidbit? And so that was my inspiration for doing it. And as a very sort of logical technology thinking person, to get into the creative space, I needed a coach to tell me it's going to be messy, and that's okay. And it was very messy, and it was very difficult to be creative.
Well, I love the title of the book. I love that your last name is in the title of the book. Not everybody could do that because, some people have last names that are not so cool as yours. Why did you choose this title? How fun was that process?
Well, for those who know me, I love puns. I love plays on words. I'm always trying to figure out it. And I thought, well, for my whole life, since I was a little kid, I've always got teased about virtue. And when I got married, I didn't change my last name. And of course, the joke is, oh, you got married and didn't lose your virtue. But you have 4 kids. How did that work? So, of course, as I was trying to think about the book, and when I think about leadership, I think about values and what really matters, you think about the usual ones, integrity and perseverance and patience, which is my worst virtue, by the way. what if I put my name in the title? And then it just occurred to me, oh yeah, it's the virtues of leadership. And I thought about, well, should I do the 10 virtues? Should I do the 5 virtues? And then I just thought, well, yeah, but oh, here's my guest. This is my other kid, Max. Go over there. You know, we have Zoom meetings and pets show up, right?
I just put my barking Labrador in the hallway myself, so I totally understand.
And so I decided that it would be fun to say, what if people could do what I do and leverage all of these virtues for leadership? Because when I think back and the process of going through your experience and thinking, well, what did I really learn? How did I learn that? Or how do I know how to do this? I realized that, oh, so many of these are, you know, typical virtues. I've got a whole list of all my virtues here. There's 21 virtues in the book. And you've got ones you might think about, right? Trust, courage, integrity, perseverance. And then I have a few that I would say are the Tracey virtues. Well, that's funny. The new virtues.
So go ahead and give us like 6 or 8 of your favorite virtues in the book.
That's like asking who's your favorite kid.
Yeah.
They're all my favorite. The last 2 chapters in my book, I talk about orchestrating the virtues. So orchestration of virtues, I think, would probably be my favorite, because that's how do you have them all work together? You know, like a conductor with musicians playing a symphony. How do you take all these virtues and play them together to create beautiful music? So that, I'm going to give that one, that's kind of a cop out. But here are some that are fun, that are new. Mental resilience. This is about your in here. What are you telling yourself, right? A lot of the challenges that you go through, it's all mental. So mental resilience as a virtue is really important, and it's a foundation. And I start my book out with talking about that one. Other ones you might not think about: emotional facility. Really understanding, what are your feelings? Why are you having them? How did they come to be? What triggers you? Why does it trigger you? Why is it triggering somebody else? Because once you can understand yourself better, you can understand others. And as a leader, it's really important to be able to understand, what's going on with my people? Why are they upset? What's happening? Let me try to really address, in high pressure situations, the fears that are going to be there. And if you don't understand your own fears, it's hard to be there for someone else.
Very good. Any others that you want to share?
Let's see. Psychological safety. As a leader, this is probably one of the most important things you need to be able to do. People need to feel safe to suggest ideas, to try something new, to fail and learn from it versus fail and be fired.
Like if they're in a sales meeting or a management meeting and, you know, they're saying, what are we going to do now? They have to be welcomed or not ridiculed. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, right? You want to have ideas without judgment, right? And you're not judging the person. You may say, hey, we've got all these ideas. I love to do what I call the Post-it note wall. Everybody write down an idea and we'll just stick them all up on Post-its on the wall. And then what happens is your idea goes up there and it's no longer necessarily attached to you. So it's safer to talk about it. And so that's one way to start to build psychological safety, where everybody put the note up there. And then they're just ideas on the wall. And now we assess the ideas. Which ones make sense? What are the pros and cons of the different ideas? Because when people feel comfortable, right, innovating or having ideas, they're going to come up with some ideas that you might not have thought of. And there are a number of stories in my book where you'll see how important that foundation is for the characters in the stories to actually be able to figure out how they're going to solve the challenge that they're facing.
Any other ones that really kind of go towards your subtitle of fueling growth, innovation, and resilience to achieve organizational goals? Any other virtues that kind of drive that point home?
And there's one that I like. It's called cultural patience. So which is more than just you being patient, but cultural patience. When you're doing rapid growth, and the story in the book is, you know, a company is acquired, and that company has toxic culture compared to your company's culture. And they've been that way for 20 years. How do you change the culture? And my story is, I was trying to push, like, you guys are going to change. We're going to go this way. Come on, come on, come on. We're all exciting. We're a big team, a big hug. And they're like, who are you There's no way we're going to do this. And I was pushing and pushing and thinking, I don't understand. Why are they not getting with this? This is so much better than what they have. And I realized that I needed to have cultural patience for change to happen over time. And so you can't force 20 years of one culture to change overnight in 90 days. It's going to take time. You have to build it slowly. You have to establish trust. You got to walk your talk so that people know you're not just a whole bunch of, core values and words up on the wall. You mean what you say and you say what you mean.
Mhm.
And to change a company, you have to think about that culturally across the company to have
Well,
that patience.
your book is hot off the press. The reviews are coming back in really quickly. Everybody loves it that's read it so far. What do you hope your readers learn from your book?
Well, that they're not alone. That others have gone through challenges and made it through. And I share all the things that were really crappy that happened to me and how I got through them and what I learned. And I hope that what they learn is that be brave, believe in yourself, and take one quotation that I have in my book from Christine Dirkele and say it to yourself. What if I can?
Mm. Well, this is serious business because when you're in leadership in corporate America, if you don't produce, like you're out the door. And if you're out the door and you don't have a job and you can't pay your bills and be a mother, father, I mean, this is serious, Russian roulette, basically. And so I can see the emotion that comes through this because it's do or die, basically.
It is, and it's very scary. And I think that, you want to understand, like, you yearn to be safe, you want to be comfortable, you want to support your family, and it's hard. And sometimes, life throws you a twist and it doesn't go the way you wanted it to. And that's okay because you're going to come out the other side. You're going to learn something from it. It's going to make you go through a new door that you didn't know you needed to go through. And if you take the time, not just to have gone through the experience, but to assess it, like, what was my part in this? Is there something I could have done differently? So if this happens again, I could do it that other way. Is there someone I could ask about this? Who else has gone through this? I mean, writing this book is who else has gone through this? I got through this. Learn from what I did, and maybe that'll help you have a different experience or learn something new that I didn't learn. And I'm still learning.
I was laid off at 9/11, being in high technology sales, and a lot of that business went to Asia, and then laid off again in 2002. And I finally said, I'm done. I'm done with corporate America. And I turned my passions into my professions. I've been a full-time entrepreneur ever since. So I want to ask you this. What advice do you have for executive management leaders that have faced a layoff or have been downsized, or in New Zealand, Australia, they say made redundant? What's your best advice that you can give other executives when they're just humming along, big salary, company car, all the benefits, stock options, and it's all just pulled out from under them? How do you help people get past that and still keep their sanity?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that. One of the chapters in my book is called, hold on, I got all my book on squares over here, is preserving dignity. And in that chapter, I tell the story related to when I had to lay off 20 people at the same time. And how do you do that? And I did it to remind them of all the value they had brought to the company and that the layoff wasn't personal. And I talked about things that I know they had done and the values that they have, and that the opportunity they have is for something new and not to look at it as if they got shoved off the cliff, but they're just getting a gentle push to go and find something new. Maybe they want to find a job closer to home. Maybe they have been thinking about changing careers, but they haven't done it yet. Or they could go back to school. And yes, it's scary. And I've had to shut down an entire business, laying off the last person, which was me. And it's an ending, but a new beginning. And so to really think about it as this door closed, not maybe because you wanted it to, but it's still closed.
Mm.
So believe in yourself, gather friends and family for support, and go forward. It's not that it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be scary. It's going to be stressful, but believe in yourself. You've got this. You can find that next thing and let people know. And maybe the next thing will find you faster than you find it.
I hope that when you laid yourself off that you negotiated a 10-year severance package for yourself.
Nobody does that. Come on, Patrick, this is business. I got 6 months. That was
Yeah.
it.
6 months is good.
6
So
months.
how do you suggest others battle burnout in corporate America, especially during rapid growth when you're expected, oh, well, we got this event planned every night of the week. And you know what? That 40-hour per work week, that's not, realistic. You have to commit 70, 80 hours and then weekends and then travel and then 2 weeks on the road and here and there.
That's right. 40 hours. That's a part-time job.
Yeah, I have 40 hours part-time. Yeah. So how do you battle burnout during these times?
This is a lesson I had to learn a number of times because I didn't learn it well enough the first time. For me, there are 3 things that I do: exercise, sleep, and stillness. So let me tell you about those. For exercise, movement, and do a movement that you like. For me, as you heard in my bio, I love road cycling. So I get into cycling, whether it's on a Peloton or it's outside. When I was running that one startup, I would do an 18-mile bike ride along Pacific Coast Highway, which is beautiful. So you've got the ocean. And so I would do that before work. I'd get up at like 6 in the morning out on the road so then I could go to the office. And it always filled me with good, positive energy. And then as I continued in my career, I'm always trying to stay up, push those extra hours. If I didn't ruthlessly guard my sleep, I would, run out. If I did a 12-hour day on Monday, by Wednesday, terrible. So I ruthlessly guarded 8 hours of sleep and I exercised. And then one time I'm traveling back and forth from Los Angeles to Toronto every other week. Sleep is like really crazy hard to get. And even exercising on my bike wasn't doing it. And I had a person tell me, what if you tried just sitting still? Because you're always go, 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 go. If you just sat still, try to clear your mind, it would actually sharpen your thinking. I thought, there's no way that's going to work. Fine. I didn't make it a minute the first time I tried it without 700 things running around in my head. And so I said, this isn't going to work. You got to keep trying, keep trying. And so I would extend it and I would get a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And then I was able to do, I think I did 10 minutes in a row one time. And then I just have to keep shifting myself back. I had the most productive day. And I thought, what just happened? Because what it does is instead of your brain always being in fight mode, it calms down and then clear thinking pops out. And so when I combine those 3, ruthless guarding my sleep, exercise, and stillness, I can't always get 30 minutes, but even if I can get 15, that made a world of difference for me not burning out. And I think one more piece that I want to add to that is pushback. When your boss keeps giving you one more thing, don't just say yes. Say, I'd love to do this. I have these 10 other things that you want me to do. Where do you want me to prioritize this? Because I'm going to have to push one to the side. Yeah. And the thing about doing that is that, your boss doesn't read your mind. They don't know. They forgot they gave you 7 other things to do. Oh, isn't that already done? So it's up to you to speak up and say, these are the things that I'm doing. Which ones matter? And hopefully you've got a boss who's going to help you understand how the prioritization works so that you can get better at doing that yourself as your career grows.
I love it. So you've been on the laying off side of things. Let's talk about the opposite side. When you're acquiring companies, what are some of the challenges that you face when you are in the merger acquisition side of things, acquiring other businesses?
There's all the usual number stuff, right? You got to go through and find the right numbers, make sure that you do the deal. And I think, although those are all very MBA type classes, quantifiable, the intangible one is, how do the cultures mix? I talk about that toxic culture. How do you have the cultures align? You really need to be intentional about sharing why your company exists. What is your company culture like? What is their company culture like? How do you bring them together so that you take the best of each and create something even better? And then the challenges are going to come when you try to merge systems. And one of the more painful lessons I learned was dirty data is a disaster. And you want to invest in cleaning up the data in each of the systems before you try to push them together. Because, there's in computer science, there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. Well, when you take dirty data and you shove it in, you're not going to get good data about your whole company. And so there's a whole challenge related to cleaning data. And I would advise everyone, spend some time and money on making sure it's clean before you try to shove it all together.
Yeah. In your book, you talk about these 2 a.m. moments. Wondering if you were missing something, missing a deadline, forgot to send an email, something about leadership that needed to be done or implemented. Tell us about some of those 2 a.m. moments and what's the best way to rectify those.
I'm going to tell you the funniest thing about those 2 a.m. moments is I'm still working in my head about 2 a.m. And I'm sending emails in my head. And I came into work one day and I'm like, did you get my email? And they're like, what email? But it was email. It said, da, 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 da. No. And I'm like, oh my God, I dreamt that I sent that email. I got to stop working at 2 a.m. So those are some of the funnier pieces. But at 2 a.m., what you're doing is you're waking up going, how do I fix this? How do I solve this problem? I've tried everything that I think I can do. What do I do next? I don't know. And then you're like, oh my God, is it me? Do I not know what I'm doing? Do I not know how to do this? And I've read a number of books by John C. Maxwell. And one of the things that I learned is, you know what? You hired good people. And if you were really smart, you hired people smarter than you. So go and ask them, how should we solve this problem? Everybody come together. And so this is where I learned the value of collective wisdom and even collective intuition. How do you harness everybody's because intuition or gut instinct, that's all your years of experience coming together in a lightning moment to give you instant information. And when you can harness, I write some of this in my book actually about these stories. How do you harness that collective wisdom, get that intuition, that instinct, and then use it to point you in the direction that's going to solve it, and then add data in and layer in the analytics to prove it. And so a lot of times at 2 a.m. it's self-doubt, it's worry, it's concern, it's facing the unknown. And a lot of times the way that you solve that is, you know what? With the people you have around you.
So your book is titled Leveraging the Virtues of Leadership. It's hot off the press. How or where can people pick up a copy?
You can get it on Amazon or you can get it on my website, traceyvirtue.com, Tracey with an E.
And if you get it off Tracey with an E, virtue.com, they get a signed copy of the book. Is that right?
Oh, right. Let's put that out. Yes. If you buy it on my website, I will send you a signed copy.
Very good. Also, you are a speaker, a professional speaker. You're a coach, a consultant. Do you offer a complimentary consultation for corporations? And if so, how or where can they book you for your complimentary consult?
Absolutely. I'd love to take, at least 30 minutes to understand, well, what's going on for you? What's your challenge? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? Whether or not I can help. As you know from earlier when I told you where I sent my one potential customer to the competitor, if I can't help you, I'm going to tell you that I can't help you, and I'll send you to someone who can. Best way to reach me, send me a text. My number is 714-390-6684. Let me know your time zone so that I don't, respond back to you while you're sleeping. And we can set up a call, or I have a section on my website where you can submit a request, traceyvirtue.com. or email me. My email is tracy@traceyvirtue.com.
Very good. Very good. Anything else that we missed? I want to give you the last word. Any other topics, subjects, stories from your book? Anything else that you want to share? Any bits of wisdom or insights that you want to leave us with today?
I had someone ask me, what did I learn through writing a book? And I said, I learned that I know way more than fits in 300 pages. And I think, the key thing, writing the book, the most interesting part of it was doing that analysis of, well, what have I done in my career? And what did I learn? And then, God, how do I explain that to somebody in a way that's interesting, that's engaging? And when I first wrote my first version of this book, it was a textbook. You could gone to sleep with it. And I had this inspiration of like, oh, wait a minute. Stories are engaging. Characters, people watch movies. People will sit for 3 hours and watch a movie, or, binge watch 5 episodes or a whole season of a show. What if I changed my book to be stories and had characters? And so I rewrote it. And now I'm going to call it edutainment. It's educational, but it's entertaining. And so they're engaging stories about characters. There's Monica and there's Clayton and there's so many different characters. I'm in the book too. So I'm there. And I think it makes the lesson also more relatable, because you can be like, oh yeah, I was in that kind of an environment. I had people like that work for me. And so I think that way you're really going to get more out of it, because you'll be able to see yourself in the story. You can, in an office, you'll hear those fluorescent lights humming and flickering and the computers buzzing all around. So I think that it's fun to read and it's fun to learn. And that I hope that what everybody takes out of the book is that you also have great lessons to share. And so maybe you want to be a mentor yourself.
Yeah, 2 last questions. How do you define leadership, and how do you define virtues? What would be your definitions for each of those words?
Leadership is helping others be their best. Virtues are qualities that you admire, that you cherish, and they make you a better person.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. And lastly, this show is called the Patrick and Mary Unstoppable Author Interview Series. And so based on that, I want to ask you, how do you define the word unstoppable?
Unstoppable. Over, under, around, or through, you find a way.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's give our guest today, Tracey Virtue. You can go to tracyvirtue.com to pick up a copy of the book, Leveraging Your Leadership. This has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Are you able to stick around for a quick Q&A?
Yes, I'd love to. And thank you, everyone, for joining. It was so great to see all of your faces.
All right, let's give her a big hand.